I hope you guys are having a great weekend so far. And I'm excited that you guys are willing to start your weekend out with me here on YouTube. I'm Katie, and this is Life in the Mundane. And today we are going to talk a little bit about how school has gone so far. And then I also want to jump in and answer you guys' questions, both the ones you guys submitted in advance, as well as the ones you guys ask here live. So before I jump into Q&As, I wanted to give you a quick update on how our school year has been going so far. We've been doing school officially since last Thursday. So we've done our first full week. However, we actually started school back at the very end of July, beginning of August. And we did something different this year that really made a huge difference. And I thought I'd just share it for whatever it's worth. Okay. So you probably have heard people talk about having a soft start to your homeschool, where you don't start with all the subjects. You start adding things slowly, a little bit at a time. I've heard that advice my whole life. I have followed it, better sometimes than others. But a lot of times my struggle is that I'm like, well, once we start school, I just want to see how it all fits together. And I'm afraid that we'll get into a routine without all the subjects. And then every time we throw in a subject, it's just going to be like another kink in the plan, and it's going to be figuring it all back out again. And so because of that, it's kind of nerve-wracking to see that. And so anyway, so all that to say, I really, really, really wanted to try it this year, but I wanted to try it a little bit different. So this year we actually did kind of a soft start, like we didn't officially start our school year until September 1st, but we decided to start just adding a little bit because we do homeschool year round. So we're already doing math and reading all year round. And so then I just threw in 1 week. I was like, all right, we're just going to reintroduce grammar. Okay, now we're just going to reintroduce, now we're just going to put in spelling. Now we're going to do extracurriculars. And each week along the way, we just added in one more thing. And then by the time we got to September 1st, we were full schedule. And it's really silly because it's the exact same information, but to me, it just felt different, and it worked really well. So we've had a very smooth start. And even though we've only been going for a week, we've actually been going for about a month at this point. So I just wanted to share that with you guys for whatever that's worth. Maybe something worth trying of having an official start date, but easing into it ahead of time. I don't know. That sounds really weird as I say it out loud, but who knows? Maybe it's helpful. All right, let's jump in and answer some of you guys' questions that you asked before the live. Let's see. Let's jump into this one. My kids are younger than your oldest. Could you do a video on how to find out what your child's interests are, or how to expose them to different things to cultivate and realize interests? So this question is one that I think has a simple answer and a more complex answer. So the simple answer is we need to be students of our kids constantly. We need to be observing them. We need to be watching them. What do they gravitate towards? What do they talk about a lot? Oftentimes for kids, finding their interest isn't horribly difficult. Now, that being said, there are some kids that it's a little bit more challenging to figure out. And I would say don't try to pinpoint your child into one interest. Many kids have lots of interests, but I would say take them to the library, see what they kind of tend to gravitate for. And also don't try to shift their focus too quickly. I did this with my son. He is high functioning autism, and he got very hyper fixated on Star Wars. Okay. And everything Star Wars books, Star Wars clothes, Star Wars, everything. And I was like, but this is not a good interest, right? Not because of the franchise itself, but just more like, no, this is not very Charlotte Mason-esque. He should be interested in animals, or he should be interested in these academic things. Like, where are you supposed to go with this? And I think the thing is, we can sometimes put a little too much pressure on there. Because of Star Wars, I've actually gotten him to want to check out books from the library and actually want to be read to and all of those things. So I think just be a good student of your child, constantly looking for those things. But also, if your child is either not showing a particular interest in something, or if they're maybe hyperfixating on something that you wish was maybe a little bit better quality, just continue to put a feast out before them. Just continue to lay out before your children constantly good things. Feed their interest. Use it to your advantage. There are lots of great things out there that can help you do that. But just slowly start to put things in front of them, go to the library, check out books that you think might also interest them, as well as the ones that are interested in it as well. I don't know if that helps, but that's kind of my initial thought on that. All right. Can you explain more about what you mean by see a need, meet a need? So, what this comment or what this question was referring to is our morning menu. So, I have done a video all about our morning menus and what is inside. I already have dropped the link down below so you guys can check it out. But on the very back, I made this page that says our homeschool reminders. It says, we work for the Lord, not for man. We obey without challenge, without excuse, without delay. When we see a need, we meet a need, and we practice to make progress, not perfection. So they were asking, what does it mean that when we see a need, we meet a need? Well, this is really something I want to teach my kids. I want to teach them to have eyes to see needs. This sounds really simple, right? If your child, you know, sorry, my morning throat is dry. Anyways, if you see a need, you meet a need. And so it may seem very straightforward, right? But the thing is that I want them to have eyes to see how they can help other people. It is not uncommon whatsoever for a child to walk in a room and only see what directly affects them. Okay, mom said to clean up. This is my toy, so I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to ignore everything else around me. Or even just walking in and seeing a situation, maybe people are stressed out and being like, well, that's not my problem. And so they move on. And so I want them to learn to have eyes to see, compassionate hearts and eyes to see the things that are going on around them in the world, within the home, outside of the home, and to seek ways that they can help meet that need. Now, outside of the home, that meeting that need may be just as simple as praying for somebody. So maybe they see some issues in our world. Maybe they see somebody who's homeless. Maybe they see political things that they don't agree with. I want them to get down on their knees and pray because that is part of meeting that need. In the home, obviously prayer is also a big part of that, but I want them to be able to look around and see, you know what? Mom didn't ask me to pick up, but there's some stuff here I could easily just take up to my room. So we're just kind of training them to always have eyes to see needs and to be willing and to meet those and to help other people with those. So hopefully that helps answer that question. If you guys have questions, please drop them down in the comments. I'm going to keep going with the ones I have ahead of time. But if you guys have it, drop it there and I will get to you guys' questions for sure. Are you still using Happy Cheetah again this year? I think every time I do a live, somebody asks me this question. We are not doing it this year, but it is not at all that I don't like the program or think it's wrong. I just think what I've learned as a homeschool mom after all these years is that there are so many different ways to teach reading. And so far, very few of my kids have needed the same approach. I have 6 kids and we've gone all different ways to get there. And that's the beauty of homeschooling and the different curriculums that they offer is that we're able to kind of approach it in different ways. And so it was perfect for a season for a particular child. And then I haven't really seen a need for that particular curriculum at this point for the kids I am teaching to read. So I currently have my 4th grader. She's going through All About Reading. She finished Happy Cheetah level 1, and now she's going through All About Reading, and it's working beautifully for her. And then for my preschooler or my kindergartner or my junior kindergarten and kindergartner, they're going through CLE's program right now. They're kindergarten 1 and 2. So it's kind of introducing some of that beginning reading skills as well. So all right. Is too many breaks not good? Sometimes I just need a break from complaining. So my initial thought with this question is, are you talking about breaks within your school day or breaks from school? Either way, I think the answer is similar, but maybe a little different. If we're talking about breaks from school, we always, always, always want to make sure that we are following our state guidelines. So if you have a mandatory amount of days that you need to meet or a mandatory amount of hours, you always need to be aware of that. You need to make sure you're following those guidelines because we want to stay above board on everything we do. So with that, you are going to want to make sure you go to hslda.org, look at your state laws, make sure you're staying compliant. Now, outside of compliance, just as a general rule, taking breaks either from school or taking breaks within your school day, I think that principle is pretty much the same. I think that we really need to balance and weigh the needs, okay? There's nothing wrong with taking a break in school. Nothing wrong with it. And especially when it comes to like complaining, I think that we can start getting worked up. We can start getting frustrated. And it would definitely be better for us to step away, to take a quick break so that we can approach it with fresh eyes and with love and with care instead of just blowing up. At least for me, that's the case. So I do think breaks can be good. However, sometimes I think that breaks within our school day or from school completely can be a misconception. It can be sort of Satan telling us a lie that if we just take a break from this, it's going to be better when we come back to it. But the truth is, very rarely is stepping away completely from something going to make it easier to come back to, right? If you left on a bad note, it's not going to be a lot easier to come back to it. And so I think the thing is that sometimes there's something to be said about finding different ways to take a break. So instead of saying, all right, kids, we're going to just time out, we're going to stop school for the day, or we're going to stop school for right now, we'll come back to it in a couple of hours. Sometimes shifting your focus and being like, okay, you know what? Let's take a break from our normal schedule and let's listen to an educational podcast. Let's take a break from our normal schedule and we're going to do a 30-minute recess and then come back. Having some structure to it. So it's not like, oh, we're running away from school. We're just shifting and adjusting the plan, I think can make it a little easier. I also think it's important that as much as possible, there's a timeline around it so it doesn't get extended, because all of a sudden then you take a break, at 10 o'clock in the morning, and now all of a sudden it's 2 and you're like, do we start back? Do we just stop for the day? It can just be really confusing and hard. And I really think, like I said, I think sometimes putting things off can make it harder than going through. Again, nothing wrong with breaks. I think you're totally fine taking breaks. But if you're feeling like, if you have that gut feeling that maybe you're taking too many breaks, I would suggest a redirect versus a complete break, if that makes any sense at all. All right, let's see. Laura has a question. How do you know when you are doing too much in a day? It's sometimes hard to know when it's too much versus kids having a bad attitude or just having a lot of energy. This is a great question. So first of all, I would look at pattern, right? If your kids are consistently struggling to keep up with the amount that you've done, it's probably more of an issue of having too much in a day, versus if you're just noticing that, like, you have just bad days throughout the week, a couple times a week, that maybe is a little bit more of a hard issue than a curriculum issue. The other thing I will say when it comes to looking for patterns is, are there specific days that you're always seeing meltdowns? So for me, we have Bible study on Wednesday nights starting this fall. And sometimes I notice more of a struggle with kids on Thursday morning because we have been out the night before for Bible study. And so I just made adjustments and tweaks to our day on Thursday, either made it where we could start a little later last year, or where maybe we would have a little bit less, or maybe we would start with more of a brain break movement activity to get them going. There's a lot of adaptations that you can make within it. But I think that we always want to be looking for those patterns. Obviously, when it comes to how much should we be doing, we definitely want to make sure that, again, we're following those HSLDA guidelines. That's super important. But beyond that, I think just looking for patterns. Is it a consistent thing or is it not? And if it is a consistent thing, but it's something you still feel is very necessary to add, because sometimes kids just don't want to do hard things and we have to do hard things, is that I would say maybe slow down and introduce slowly. Okay, so start with your core basics, and then in a week or so, add one more thing. Let them get used to that, then add one more thing. I think that can be a good compromise between the two. Okay, so ideas for getting uninterested, lazy children involved. So this, I would say, I would reference a video. I dropped it already down in the description. You guys can check it out, of getting to the heart of your child when they don't want to do their schoolwork. Definitely recommend watching that video, because there are two different issues involved. Sometimes it is curriculum issues and sometimes it is heart issues. And that video kind of directs and answers both. And I feel like that also kind of goes along with the question that was just asked, that we want to make sure that we make adaptations for those children, but that we also encourage them to do hard things for sure. Let's see. All right. When you have used All About Reading, do you finish all the way through the last level, even when it seems easy for your kid towards the end? Do you usually do one level per year? Okay. So this is a great question. Every kid has been different. Yes, I typically go all the way to the end, even if it is easy. The reason for that is because that last level, by the time they get to that fourth level, a lot of times they are doing really good. Sorry. they're doing really good on reading, and they actually could pick up most books and read by the time they end level 3. But for level 4, they really help your kids break down those much bigger words, or words that have languages that are based in other languages. And so they help you kind of figure out how to pronounce those harder things, and really does a lot of reinforcement. So I feel like it has made a really big difference. My kids who have gone all the way through level 4 and my kids who have not, there's a huge difference in the way they're able to process words that they've never seen before. So I do recommend going through level 4. As far as, do you usually do one level per year? That has varied widely. There's been kids who I haven't even gotten through a whole level in a year because of the amount of struggle that they've had with reading, and it's taken us a year and a half. There has been kids that we have done a level in like 3 to 6 months. And then there have been kids that have taken one level per year. So it just kind of varies a lot on your kids. I do the 20-minute timer, set a timer for 20 minutes. We go as far as we can in lesson. When the timer goes off, we shut it, we move on, and that's it. So just kind of depends on the kid and how fast they progress for that. Let's see, Megan. Hey, Katie, I'm sitting under the dryer at the salon and listening. Well, Megan, I'm so excited that you got your hair appointment and that you can just have some time to just chill. And good morning, Ashley and Wendy and other Ashley and Summer. All right, let's see. More questions. Let's see. What is the one thing that has been a hit this year, and what is something that has been a flop? So we've had a lot of hits. Like, I don't mean that to sound like braggy. We've had tons of years where I've started and I'm like, this is going to be the worst year ever because we haven't had any hits. But this year, I feel like it's been one of the best homeschool years we've had so far. There's so many things that we're enjoying and loving. I probably would reference you back to my favorites video. So this year, I am doing a series on the first video that I post of every month. I will be sharing my homeschool favorites with you guys. And I know if you guys saw that video, you know that probably one of my favorites right now is the Who Am I book by Apologia. This is their second worldview book. We are actually loving it so much that we're going through it incredibly fast. Last year, we went through one of these books in an entire semester. This year, we started on the beginning of August, the very first week of August, and we will be finishing by the end of September, maybe the first 2 weeks in October. So we've gone through it very fast. I think we're actually going to end up doing, there's 2 other books in the series. I think we're actually going to end up using all 3 of them this school year because we're loving it so much. My kids are just begging for more. Flops. I haven't had a whole lot of just straight up flops. I've had some things where I'm keeping my eye out for problem situations. One of those is one of my kids is doing fantastic with Evan Moore spelling. The other one, I'm noticing not as much retention as I would like. And so I'm just keeping my eye on it. You know, we just started it a couple weeks ago. And so I'm just going to keep my eye on it and see if we need to make adjustments for her. Again, it's not usually an issue with the curriculum itself. It's just more, it's not the right fit for that child. The other one that's not been a flop, but has been a lot different than I expected is My Story K. This is put out by Master Books. I'm going to do a full review for you guys coming up later this year. So subscribe so you guys don't miss that. It's just been a lot different than what I thought it would be. The lessons are laid out a lot different. And so we're just trying to kind of figure out how to use it best in our home. I still like it. I still like having that guide in kindergarten. It doesn't need to be real in depth or a big deal, but I do feel like I need to adjust, if that makes sense, if that makes any sense. Okay, let's see. Oh, Megan said worldviews are so important right now. I agree. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Master Books? I've used it. If so, do you feel like it's enough? I am really split on Master Books, guys. I know a lot of people are like all Master Books or no Master Books, and I have found things I like from them, and I have found things that I don't like, and then things that I'm kind of ambivalent about. So it's really a struggle for me. I did the math lessons for Living Education, and that was a great fit for some of my older kids. They were transitioning out of Saxon, which they had really been struggling with, and they really had caused a great dislike. No shade on Saxon. It's just they didn't like it, and it had made math very difficult. And so transitioning to that was a kind of a breath of fresh air. It went really well for my kids. However, when I went to go pick out curriculum for my younger 3, I did not choose to go that route because I felt like there were better options for them because we were starting with a fresh slate versus trying to kind of retrain them that math didn't have to be really frustrating, if that makes sense. But then again, I tried language lessons for Living Education and I did not like it I think it has its place. I think it works for a lot of people. Very rarely is a curriculum just a bad curriculum. It was not a good fit for our family. It was definitely not a good fit for my kids with dyslexia. They needed a way more repetition. They needed it different. So I think it works great if you need open and go curriculum, if you like to go on the gentler side of school, if you like if you just like more ready for you, I think it's good. But there are several books that I have used that I have really not liked and that I've been very frustrated by. So I just think it depends on the person and what you're looking for. Do I feel like it's enough? Again, I think it just depends on the curriculum and it depends on the child. I feel like their curriculum is very geared towards the child who naturally gets things very quickly. Like you introduce something and then they've got it. And that's not my kids at all. All right, let's see. Have you heard of Heart of Dakota? I have heard of it. I don't know much about it. I believe Ashley from Joyful Noise Learning has used it. Ashley, comment if you have. I think that's what you used. I'll double check with you and let you know later. But I believe she used it and she did a bunch of videos on it. I've heard great things, but I've never used it personally. Let's see. I've heard someone else say similar things about my story. Yeah. So we'll see. That's another Master Books one. So it's just kind of hit or miss for me. Their science is really good from what I hear. Like I said, other things I've loved, but some things I haven't. All right. My ADHD son loses everything and then freaks out when he can't find them. He also has a habit of breaking things because he is careless. Any suggestions for that? So first of all, I would say I've done 2 videos on ADHD, one for tips for homeschooling your child with ADHD and one on tips for a mom who has ADHD. And I dropped those links down in the description already, so you guys can check that out. And this question was asked on there. So, I mean, I have no magic solution for not losing things. But a couple of the things that have helped both as a mom and helping my kids is really making sure and working with your child to find an identified home for their objects. So you're going to notice certain patterns of specific things that they tend to lose. A lot of times for adults, it'll be keys or their phone. For kids, a lot of times it'll be their shoes or their backpack or things like that. So working with your child to not only find a designated home, but also working with your child to find a home that makes sense to their brain. Because if you don't have ADHD, you may not understand how weird our brains work sometimes. And so with that, I think that asking them, like to you, it might make perfect sense to put their shoes by the door, but to them, they're never going to think to take their shoes off when they first walk in the house. They don't think about it until they get downstairs. So maybe having a basket downstairs, things like that. So I would work with your child on having a designated place. And if there are specific patterns that they're consistently losing, then maybe work on that for the month. Okay, this is our place. Oh, did you put it in your place? Lots of reminders, lots of praise when they do it the right way. Not necessarily criticism when they don't, but just encouraging like, oh, you know what? I saw your shoes. Where did your shoes go? Okay, let's put them away. I think that really, really does help. The other thing is I think that removing as much clutter as possible is really, really helpful. I feel like people, myself at least, with ADHD, we thrive off of structure and we thrive off of more of a, not minimalist, but like less stuff. Okay. Less visual clutter because it distracts us. But we also really, 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 really struggle with putting structure in place ourselves and getting rid of clutter or organizing things or having homes for everything. So I think what you can do for your child is you can come alongside them and help them create that structure and help them kind of declutter things. My daughter, we actually went into her room. She has severe ADHD. We went into her room. We removed everything out of her room and we only put back her bed, her dresser, and one small, like shoebox size, small bucket of a few of her favorite toys. That was it. And we moved everything out. And then over time, we've slowly added back in things for her. But that really, honestly, like at first she was like, my stuff. And we didn't get rid of it. We just packed it away. But at first she was like, my stuff. But then she kind of built those habits of putting away her stuff and making sure everything went into the right place. And it was easy for me to check because her room didn't look like an explosion had gone off. Oh, that's a lie. It still looked like an explosion had gone off, but there's less stuff. And so I was able to kind of help keep her accountable. Oh, that goes in her shirt drawer. Where can that go? The last thing I will say about this is that your kids can have different organizing styles. Wendy is a big fan of the Clutterbug, I believe is her name. You guys can check out her YouTube channel, but there are different styles of organization, and finding out your child's style can be very helpful. Some kids need clear containers to remember where it goes. Some kids, that's very visually distracting. So definitely go check out the Clutterbug, find out more information about that. She is really, really helpful for figuring out styles and what works best. Try not to make it be for your style, but for their style, even though that can be really hard. I know that. I know that. Okay, let's see. I struggle with getting with homeschool days started. Morning routines, chores, etc. take forever, and I had to scrap our morning basket. I think I have ADHD. Any tips? Okay. This has definitely been something we've been there with. This year, what is keeping us the most on schedule, but this is not an option for everybody, is we actually at 7:30 in the morning, we leave our house and we go over to Wendy at Planned Prairie's house. She lives in our neighborhood, and we take a 30-minute morning walk, and then we come back and we start school. This has really helped because my kids are old enough to be left at home if the older ones are, to be left at home if they don't get their stuff done. So I'm like, hey, if you want to go take a walk with friends, you need to get all of your chores done. You need to have all your stuff done. All of a sudden, breakfast and chores and watching our World Watch, all of those things take a matter of minutes instead of hours. And they're very motivated. And then we get to go take the walk. The second we get back, we have like a 5-minute wind down time, and then it's time to start school. And that has been like helped us most consistently. However, if you don't have a friend that you can go take a walk with in the morning, I do suggest making something like that where there is a privilege if you're moving quickly and a consequence if there's not. So for an idea, I think movement time is a good time to start the school day, and kids look forward to it. There are a lot of great YouTube videos on different exercises or different kid-friendly programs. And so I think that what you can do is you can say, okay, guys, if you guys have your breakfast and your chores and your morning routine stuff done by this time, then you will get to have a 30-minute show. You'll get to do this fun workout as a family, whatever, make it this fun thing they can do for about 20 to 30 minutes if they are done. If they are not done, it's not a discipline. It's not a punishment. It's just like, oh, well, instead of doing that, you have 30 extra minutes to get your stuff done. And you can offer them that extra time to finish, because right at whatever time you want to start, we're going to start. And I think that can really be helpful to the kids and give you a little bit of structure. For me, I need the meeting up with someone else, because there are mornings that I would wake up and I would be like, man, we were out really late last night. I'd really rather not. I'd really rather not jump in and do this. Maybe I'm just going to let the kids sleep in. So it does help me having that extra accountability. But I do think that you can do it even without that. Let's see what Ashley says. You can have tea or hot chocolate with your lessons during morning time. Yes, that is a great idea. That's the other thing too, is kind of reorienting. Morning baskets don't need to be in the morning. They can be in the afternoon. They could be in the evening. It could be over lunch. Or you could do morning basket while they're eating breakfast. So there are a lot of options to switch things around. Don't beat yourself up. Mornings don't have to look super structured. For some people, they really much prefer a very slow start to their day, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right. Is there any more questions? I want to try and get to any more that you guys have. And then I have a special announcement for you guys I'm really excited about. All right. Ashley answered Homeschool Mama's questions. Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate it. I knew you would be a great resource for people to check out. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you guys my announcement, and if there's any more questions, I'll answer after that. But drum roll, please. Life the Mundane podcast season 2 is coming out on Monday. My husband and I have a podcast that we do. You can find it on any platform, but I did also leave the website link down below where you guys can listen to it online if you prefer to do that. It is all about marriage and parenting from a biblical perspective. So we do come as we're both second generation homeschoolers. So we come from that perspective. We talk about a lot of things in the perspective of somebody who is, as somebody who has been homeschooled and does homeschool, but it's not just for homeschoolers. But we talk a lot about marriage and parenting from a biblical perspective. And it is really fun. This season we're tackling some really, really tough topics, like very, very hard topics. And so we are excited to jump into that and share that with you guys. So on Monday, that will be released. So if you subscribe to the podcast, you'll get a notification when that comes up live on Monday. But I hope you guys will enjoy it. Let's see. We have one more question. I have a second grader, a 3-year-old, cannot read today, and a 1-year-old. For some reason, it seems like when my oldest and I sit down to do school work, the younger two suddenly go insane. Any tips? This is the reality for so many people. I'm not I don't know how you feel about it, and I don't ever want to encourage someone to go against their convictions, but I am not anti TV time during not during the whole school day, but like during times of needing focused work. So when I had that combination, I would have like the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old running around and playing while we did different subjects. But like when we needed to do reading or math, like really hard subjects, I would block out like an hour and be like, okay, guys, you're going to go watch Leapfrog or Magic School Bus or something like that while we get this focus time. But there are tons of fun ideas you can do if you don't want to do screen time, but just know there's no guilt in the screen time either. Some of the fun things is having designated toys that are just for your time with just during your school time, that they can only get into those, or fun activities. Stickers and paper is really like, it's funny how much that can hold a kid's attention. It's just getting to peel off stickers and put it on paper. And that's fairly like simple and not too messy. Another one is making sure that you give your 3-year-old and your 1-year-old some focus time before you jump in with your second grader. So the thing is, second grade shouldn't take too horribly long in the day. So it should be, I think, fairly simple to be able to institute that. When I had that combination, I have a basket in my living room that has stuff just for the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old. And so we would sit down and we would do our own little sort of morning basket kind of thing. We would sing some songs or do some poems. We would have some toys, anything like that, activities that we would do together. I would set a timer. When the timer was done, then I'm like, okay, well, now it's time to work with the second grader. You know what I mean? So I think there's things you can do. Yasmin says busy bins are helpful. Yes. Yasmin, I think Yasmin has some videos about that on her channel. I know Wendy from Plan Prep Pray has a bunch of videos about putting together busy bins. So there are a lot of great mamas on here that have fantastic ideas for you guys. But definitely Google busy bins and you'll find way more information than you ever wanted to find. Well, thank you guys. I'm going to end this because I don't want to make it too long, but I hope you guys have a great Saturday. If you have any more questions that you didn't get a chance to ask, shoot me an email. I will be happy to answer them. And then also I wanted to know, next month, I'm trying to do these lives once a month, and Simply BG. Okay. So hi guys. So I wanted to tell you guys that, I got distracted here. Sorry. I wanted to tell you guys that, my next live, would you guys like me to talk a little bit about readers, read alouds? How do we find them? How do we assign them? How do you get your kids interested in reading? Kind of talking all things reading. Or I have a feeling this will be the winner, but my question is would you guys rather that, or would you rather a live with Wendy? And Wendy and I would sit down and do a live together and talk together and share and answer you guys' Q&A questions. So let me know down in the comments, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.